Chapter 6, Part 2 of the Boy Scout Aviators by George Durston. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Kangaroo. The Mystery of Bray Park, Part 2. The village was a sleepy little place, one of the few spots Harry had seen to which the war fever had not penetrated. It was not on the line of the railway, and there was not even a telegraph station. By showing Colonel Throckmorton's letter, Harry and Dick could have obtained the right to search the property that they suspected, but that did not seem wise. "I don't think the village constables here could help us much, Dick," said Harry. "They'd give everything away, and we probably wouldn't accomplish anything except to put them on their guard. I vote we wait until dark and try to find out what we can by ourselves. It's risky, but even if they catch us, I don't think we need to be afraid of their doing anything." "I'm with you," said Dick. "We'll do whatever you say." They spent the rest of the afternoon scouting around the neighboring country on their motorcycles, studying the estate from the roads that surrounded it. Bray Park, it was called, and it had for centuries belonged to an old family, which, however, had been glad of the high rent it had been able to extract from the rich American who had taken the place. What they saw was that the grounds seemed to be surrounded, near the wall, by heavy trees, which made it difficult to see much of what was within. But in one place there was a break, so that, looking across velvety green lawns, they could see a small part of an old and weather-beaten gray house. It appeared to be on a rise and to stand several stories above the ground, so that it might well be an ideal place for the establishment of a heliograph station. But Harry's suspicions were beginning to take a new turn. "I believe this is the biggest find we've made yet, Dick. I think we'll find that if we discover what is really going on here, we'll be at the end of our task, or very near it. It's just the place for a headquarters." "I believe it is, Harry. And if they've been so particular to keep everything about it secret, it certainly seems that there must be something important to hide," suggested Harry. "I think I'll write a letter to Colonel Throckmorton, Dick. I'll tell him about this place, and that we're trying to get in and find out what we can about it. Then, if anything happens to us, he'll know what we are doing, and he will have heard about this place, even if they catch us. I'll post it before we go in." "That's a splendid idea, Harry. I don't see how you can think of everything the way you do." "I think it's because my father's always talking about how one ought to think of all the things that can go wrong. He says that the way he's got along in business is by never being surprised by having something unfortunate happen, and by always trying to be ready to make it as trifling as it can be." So Harry wrote and posted his letter, taking care to word it so that it would be hard for anyone except Colonel Throckmorton to understand it. And, even after having purposefully made the wording rather obscure, he put it into code, and after that he thought of still another precaution that might be wise. "We won't need the credentials we've got in here tonight, Dick," he said, "nor our copies of the code, either. We'll bury them near where we leave our motorcycles. Then, when we get out we can easily get them back, and if we should have been caught, they won't be found on us. Remember, if we are caught, we're just boys out trespassing. Let them think we're poachers if they like." But even Harry could think of no more precautions after that, and they had a long and tiresome wait until they thought it dark enough to venture within the walls. Getting over the wall was not difficult. They had thought they might find broken glass on top, but there was nothing of the sort. Once inside, however, they speedily discovered why the precaution was not taken, and also that they had a remarkably narrow escape. For scarcely had they dropped to the ground and taken shelter when they saw a figure, carrying a gun, approaching. It was a man making the rounds of the wall. While they watched, he met another man, also armed, and turned to retrace his steps. "They've got two men, at least, maybe a lot more doing that," whispered Harry. "We've got to find out just how often he passes the spot. We want to know if the intervals are regular, too, so that we can calculate just when he'll be here." 3 times the man came and went, while they waited, timing him, and Harry found that he passed the spot at which they had entered every 15 minutes. That was not exact, for there was a variation of a minute or so, but it seemed pretty certain that he would pass between 13 and 17 minutes after the hour, and so on. "So we'll know when it's safe to make a dash to get out," said Harry. "The first thing a general does, you know, is to secure his retreat. He doesn't expect to be beaten, but he wants to know that he can live to fight another day if he is." "We've got to retreat, haven't we?" asked Dick. "It wouldn't do us any good to stay here." "That's so. But we've got to advance first. Now to get near that house and see what we can find. Look for those traps and things our friend warned us of. It looks like just the place for him. And keep to cover." They wormed their way forward, often crawling along. Both knew a good deal about traps and how they are set, and their common sense enabled them to see the most likely places for them. They kept to open ground, avoiding shrubbery and what looked like windfalls of branches. Before they came into full view of the house, they had about a quarter of a mile to go, and it was an exciting journey. They dared not speak to one another, for all about, though at first they could see nothing, there was a sense of impending danger. They felt that unseen eyes were watching, not for them, perhaps, but for anyone who might venture to intrude and pass the first line. Both of the scouts felt that they were tilting against a mighty force, that the organization that would perfect in time of peace. Such a system of espionage in the heart of a country, of a possible enemy, was of the most formidable sort. They stopped at last, at the edge of a clump of thick old trees that seemed to surround the place. Here they faced the open lawn, and Harry realized that to cross it was too risky. They would gain nothing by being detected. They could find out as much here by keeping their eyes and ears open. He thought as by going forward, when they were almost sure to be detected. "We'll stay here," he whispered to Dick cautiously. "Dick, look over there, to the left of the house. You see where there's a shadow by that central tower? Well, to the left of that. Do you see some wires dangling there? I'm not sure." "I think there are," whispered Dick, after a moment in which he peered through the darkness. Dick had one unusual gift. He had almost a savage's ability to see in the dark, although in daylight his sight was by no means out of the ordinary. "Look!" he said again, suddenly. "Up on top of the tower. There is something going up there. It's outlined against that white cloud." Harry followed with his eyes, and Dick was right. A long, thin pole was rising, even as they looked on. Figures showed on the roof of the tower. They were busy about the pole. It seemed to grow longer as they watched. Then, suddenly, the dangling wires which they had first noticed were drawn taut, and they saw a cross piece of the long pole. And then, with a sudden rush of memory, Harry understood. "Oh, we have struck it!" he said. "I remember now. A portable, collapsible, wireless installation. I've wondered how they could use the wireless, knowing that someone would be sure to pick up the signals and that the plant would be run down. But they have those poles made in sections. They could hide the whole thing. It takes very little time to set them up. This is simply a bigger copy of what they use in the field. We've got to get out." He looked at his watch. "Carefully now," he said. "We've just about got time. That sentry must be just about passing the place where we got over the wall now. By the time we get there he'll be gone, and we can slip out. We've got everything we came for. Not that we've seen that." They started on the return journey through the woods. More than ever, there seemed to be a danger about them. And suddenly it reached out and gripped them, gripped Harry at least. As he took a step, his foot sank through the ground, as it seemed. The next moment he had all he could do to suppress a cry of agony as a trap closed about his ankle, wrenching it, and throwing him down. "Go on!" he said to Dick, suppressing his pain by a great effort. "I won't leave you," said Dick. "I obey orders! Don't you see you've got to go? You've got to tell them about the wireless, and about where I am. Or else how am I to get away? Perhaps if you come back quickly, with help, they won't find me until you come. Hurry! Hurry!" Dick understood, and with a groan, he obeyed orders and went. End of chapter 6, part 2. Recording by Kangaroo.